Bryce knows that she only has minutes before Micah, like the water's not gonna stop him forever. She also knows how much time LaHaba bought her. Just those precious few extra seconds, maybe just like a minute or two, okay? So she doesn't want to waste it. She gets up off the ground, she takes Searings. Her leg is pretty much fully healed now. She runs up the stairs to Jezebel's office. The glass from like the one-way glass that hit her office shattered a long time ago when Micah was like using his power everywhere. She gets up to the office, puts Searings there. Before she ran up the stairs, she had opened the front door, so it's just open, okay? And now she knows that the time LaHaba bought her wasn't enough time for her to run and leave because Micah would find her no matter what, no matter where she went. There's nowhere safe. So she left that door open, ran up to the office, dropped Searings off, opened the safe, knocks back a vial, grabs the gold bullet that says Memento Mori, like remember that you will die, which is kind of, I think that's the motto that's like painted everywhere in the meat market. And anyway, she then starts taking the Godslayer rifle, which is displayed above Jezebel's desk, but it's like in pieces, like dismantled, shown on the wall. She starts taking it, and expertly, as if she's done this 1,000 times, which honestly with her training with her father Randall probably has, starts assembling this gun. And then like you can tell the synth is like really getting close to the system because it's about 15 minutes, I think, when the trial videos had shown that that's when people start going insane. Hunt and everyone, they're like waiting for her to start going insane and rip herself to shreds, and they're like terrified. Everyone's stark terrified for her right now because she literally is high on synth. Got stabbed in her leg, okay? As she's grabbing pieces and assembling this rifle, like you can tell that she's heightened by synth and has these crazy powers aside from the healing, because she reaches for a piece that's too far and it literally just like flies into her hand like the Force. Like as one with synth who suddenly has heightened powers, boom, grabs that piece. Doing all of this, no hands, waiting, and then clicks the bullet in the chamber and then is like standing by the window. Then Micah blasts through the iron door. He takes one look, sees the open door, so his focus is looking that way, not at Jezebel's office. Bryce takes, this is the time LaHaba bought her, takes a second, aims, one shot, boom, fires it straight through Micah's effing head. Everybody sitting in the summit watching, because again, what are you gonna do? The Ox still has not shown up. They're all sitting there like shocked, but they know that this is for Danica. This is for everything he did to Danica, plus all the other horrible things, but specifically killing Danica in the pack right through the head. Turns out, when you kill an Archangel though, weird things happen with time and space. It slows, it does a weird time warp, okay? So everything, even for the people who are a 5-hour drive away over in the summit, everything slows. So they watch as like in slow motion, they can see everything and everything is just slowed down. They watch as Bryce, the bullet has not finished leaving his head yet as gore is splattering everywhere. She then leaps out of the window holding none other than Danica's sword, because turns out she did have it this whole time, stored in Jezebel's office this whole time. Sabine's eyes wide because she knows that heirloom sword, but no one can say anything as they watch as she just like slow-mo out the window, jumps, takes that sword, chops him right in half, straight down the body. This sword, as only like this sword could for her at this moment, perfect moment, sliced right in half, lands, slices him in half this way, slices his head, chopped into pieces. This man is dead on the ground. She's covered in nasty gore. She then proceeds to take one brief moment to look at him, goes to the supply closet, grabs a bottle of like lighter fluid, gasoline, something, I don't know, whatever you need that for, like a backup generator or something, dumps it all over his body. Everyone at the summit sitting watching. She takes a match, lights it, his body goes up in flames. Time has resumed at this point again, so they're all watching again, real time. After he is nothing but a pile of ash, she then goes back to the supply closet, grabs the vacuum, and just vacuums this man's ashes. A literal archangel starts vacuuming the ashes. Also at this point, while they're all watching this, Hypaxia is like, it's working, the antidote is working. And Hunt is like, you gave her the antidote? Like, I thought you were only sending her something like, I don't know, something else. And she's like, no, I decided to send her the antidote. And that's what they realized was the vial she had knocked back at the safe, the antidote, because she hasn't gone crazy yet with the synth. And so they were like, whoa, it is working, because like she hasn't decided to start tearing herself to shreds or anything. so she's safe from the scent for that way. Once she's done vacuuming all the ashes, takes the bin, dumps it out in the trash. And then that's the exact moment that the ox finally shows up. Bryce goes to the door and is like, oh, there's just like a gas leak, whatever. It's a private issue. It's okay. Shuts the door. Everyone at the summit shooketh, jaws on the floor. Sandrill picks up her phone, starts making some calls. She and her Triari, they walk out of the room. They leave. Hunt takes that as a sign. So he's also manacled with Gorgian stone manacles, so they like null his power. If he were to try to use his power, it would like melt his brain or something crazy. Anyway, he takes that time because she didn't bat one eye at him. He just moves on over from the wall to go sit by Rune, and then Rune's like, they're gonna freaking kill her, like she just killed an archangel, the governor. We need a plan, whatever. After Bryce tells the ox to leave, she goes back to the office, cuddles Syrinx, kind of has a brief moment to cry, looks at her phone. Jezebel, lots of missed texts and calls from Jezebel, and then finally the last one says, tell me you're alright. Bryce responds, she's like, yeah, I'm alright. She's like, okay, good. And then Bryce is like, did you see? And she's like, yeah, we all saw. And she's like, good. Puts her phone back on silent, puts it back in her pocket. She then goes out to the front door, opens it, and realizes why like no one has like come to investigate any noise or anything, why the ox didn't push. When she opens the door, lots of sirens, lots of screaming in the streets. She's like, oh no. People at the summit, they're going crazy. This is where everyone's like making phone calls, everyone's trying to figure out what to do, because they literally just watched an insane event happen, all broadcast. So everyone's trying to figure out what to do. Hunt and Rune trying to figure out how they're gonna help Bryce, when then someone points out, I think it's Hypaxia, points out, she's like, we have bigger problems right now than that. They all look to the screens. City screens are now on there. Declan had moved to the city view instead of, they don't need to be looking inside and Griffin Antiquities anymore. Turns out Micah did in fact open a portal. And it just didn't happen to be inside the library, it was inside one of the gates. Bryce gets to the gate and then has the horrible realization, false. It is not just one gate. All 7 gates, assuming 7 because the 7th is in the bone quarter, so they just assume. But the rest of the 6 gates, every single one now holds a portal. Unfortunately, not to any other fun world, but directly to hell. So do you know what now starts pouring out of these lovely portals? Demons! All sorts of demons. All the nasty low-level grunts that are not the cunning, like, princes of the chasm, prince of the pit, whatever. Not the princes with higher level intelligence. These are straight, like, nasty demons. All pouring out of these portals everywhere. Everyone's screaming. People are running. Bryce is like, holy F. Freaking Micah did it, and he opened it straight to hell, which is exactly what we said not to do, and he didn't want to do. So now they have a new problem on their hands. Demons are ripping into everybody. This is like late afternoon. Probably, let's say like 4 or 5 in the afternoon-ish. So the sun is like starting to descend. They got a couple hours left, but not a lot of time. And Hunt knows all the demons coming out right now are only the ones that can handle the light. When that sun goes down, if those portals aren't closed by then, all the demons who are the ones purely bred in the darkness and can't stand the light, they will come out, and it'll be 10 times worse than it already currently is. So everyone, they're also trying to figure out what to do, because now they're still so far removed from the city. They all need to try to get back. Sandra comes back in. Just her, though. Her Triari is nowhere to be found. She's like, the Asteri are sending help, or they're gonna take care of it. And everyone's like, okay, at least we have that. Like, that's good. Maybe they're gonna send in whatever the guard. I always forget what the guard's name is. The angel guard. They're gonna send them in. They're gonna send some troops. Help. That's good. And then Hypaxia's like, I'm going. Everyone's like, what do you mean you're going? Like, first off, you're still like an hour flight, 30-minute flight away. Second, why are you going? And she's like, because I'm not just gonna sit here and watch while people like her are fighting for our people and the innocents. Everyone looks at the screen. Hunt knows what he's gonna see already. Looks. Ah, they're on the screen. Bryce. She's run into her apartment building. Declan. He's using all the cameras and he's following Bryce. And then he like singles out her voice on the audio cameras so that they can hear her better over like all the wailing and screaming. She had dropped Syrinx off at the apartment, told her building doorman, whatever, to like get as many residents and everybody get down to the basement, get to the bomb shelters. There's bomb shelters all over the city. She's like, get to safety, okay? She leaves Syrinx in her apartment because she's like, hopefully for now, like the wards and enchantments will keep him safe. And then she takes the sword and she grabs a bunch of Hunt's guns, stocks up on like weapons, ammo that she can carry, and she's running to the gates to help people because she's like, there's innocents here. She on the phone with Juniper, she's like, Juniper, are you good? Juniper's like, I'm okay, but like all this stuff's happening, like oh my gosh. And she's like, keep calm, try to keep the doors open of the, like get to a bunker. She's like, I'm already at a bunker. And she's like, try to keep the doors open. She's like, they're trying to shut them early. Like she's in whatever, like near Fyro or I don't know, near some rich district. So then she's like, they're not letting humans in. They're trying to shut the doors early because they all will automatically shut like within the hour. And so Bryce is like, you try to convince them, hold them open, whatever. And so she knows. Of course, the stupid rich and powerful people who literally have magic are going to think of themselves only and not help those who are helpless and literally powerless and are totally going to be exposed to these horrendous hordes of demons. So she knows what she has to do. She's running to Asphodel Meadows, which is like the neighborhood that's primarily humans. Again, no powers, okay? So Hypaxia trying to get there, and then whoever she's talking to, she's like, what do you mean that all the brooms are destroyed? Because witches fly on brooms here. And they're like, what? And then turns out all the cars, all the helicopters, all the witches' brooms, all modes of transportation outside of like literal angels and their own wings, trashed. Micah had discreetly trashed all modes of transportation to like keep them there when he left to go do his thing, whatever his whole grand plan was, okay? So they're like, uh-oh. Fury's like, it's okay, I have my helicopter and I parked it off-site for a situation like this, you know? So they're like, okay, you get your helicopter here ASAP, because now everyone's like, holy crap, Bryce is in the middle of fighting. They're trying to still get the packs, like the wolf packs and the ox, the fae ox groups packs, whatever, to like go help people. They're on the phones talking, and then they can see that the stupid, all the rich fae, whatever, over in Fyro, Five Roses, all their villas, bloop, have these like force fields pop up, and they're all protected and safe. And then guess where all of the ox squads, whatever, guess where all the ox groups are protecting? In the city. Those who are already protected. The protocols are that they, when there's like some citywide emergencies, they go and they protect Moonwood and Fyro, which are already protected. So then Rune and Hunt are like, guys, screw protocols, like go help the helpless. That's literally what Bryce is doing, okay? And they're like, we can't disobey protocols in time of chaos, like these are there for our protection. Everyone's like, you're freaking stupid, like obviously they're already protected. You need to send what skeleton groups you have to go help the people get into the bomb shelters. And so then Ethan is there. At this point also Declan has like hooked all the ox phone lines to the summit so they can like talk to each other, and then they patch Ethan in. He's calling, he's like, they're everywhere, they're all like, we're being run down, whatever. And then Sabine is like, the city's a slaughterhouse, hold your posts in Moonwood and Fyro. And then every pack in the ox who's linked to the call, they can all hear. So then Declan, you know, keys them in, and Hunt is like yelling at Sabine to get a wolf pack to the old square now, which is where Bryce is, and like that's the one that's near Asphodel Meadows. So then Sabine snaps back at him. She's like, there are no wolves left for Old Square. And then the prime of the wolves, who's been like sleeping through most of the meetings, he kind of is awake by this point, and he points slowly to the screen, and he's like, one wolf remains in the Old Square. Everyone looks where he's pointing. He's pointing to Bryce on the screen, carrying Danica's sword. Sabine's just like, no, you're just sensing Danica's sword, father. And then he's like, no, that's a wolf. And he taps his heart. He's like, a true wolf. And everyone's like, heartstrings pulled. Hunt's heartstrings pulled anyway. So Hunt uses Isaiah's phone, and he calls the Viper Queen, and he's like, you owe me a freaking favor. She's like, do I? Okay. Then 2 minutes later, Jezebel's like, it's Bryce. She's calling. Then they look, and Bryce is like, they put her call up on the speakers and everything again. And then she's like, tell whoever's at the summit that like I need to back up in the meadows. I'm heading for the shelter near the Mortal Gate. And then they're like, Bryce, it's a massacre. You need to get in the shelter before they all shut, because they're gonna shut like soon. And then she's like, no, there's children and babies there. Like, I'm not going until I help them all. And so then that's when you hear Ethan's voice over the speaker saying, I'm coming, Bryce. And then Sabine's like, Holstrom, stay at your freaking post. And then he's like, I'm coming, Bryce, hang on, we're all coming. So every single wolf underneath him disobeys Sabine, and they cut her off and they hang up their connection with Sabine. And then they show up 3 minutes later, defending Bryce. So now, continuing to fight all these demons, freaking beast mode right now, just shooting everything, all these flying demons and crawling demons and trying to save people, and then when she runs out of ammo, he chucks the gun at it and then slicing them with the sword, and she's fighting her way, okay? There's only so much she can do. Synth has like probably fully worn off by now. Or at least not necessarily worn off, but like the antidote has taken it out of her system, eaten it all. And then the wolves show up, and she always forgets how giant wolf shifters are because they're bigger than normal wolves. And then Ethan and Connor were already bigger than that, so giant wolf shows up, and she's like, good. And then he shifts back into himself, and they're like fighting, chopping, saving each other from these nasty demons. And then right before another demon is about to take out Bryce, a giant 4-foot-long sword straight through the demon. And who is it but one of the Viper Queen's Fae bodyguards. The Viper Queen's bodyguards are now here, and they're fighting, and they're vicious, and they're not in a venom-addled stupor either, so they're like here with lethal precision. So they're backing her up, and they launch into the fray, and they're fighting off all these demons, okay? Ethan and Bryce start heading towards the doors, which are shutting, of the nearby bomb storage shelter, okay? And they like give this look to each other like, we will apologize and talk it all over once we're safe inside, but like wait until then. They're like, cool, yeah. So they have 4 minutes before the shelters close. They keep asking, like, Fury, where's your freaking helicopter? She's like, it's on its way, it's coming. Hypaxia takes off Hunt's manacles, so then he's sitting here and he's organizing stuff. And then this is when Sandriel comes back in, and there's no sign of her Triari or Pollux or anyway, she's just by herself. She just comes back in, and she can see that Hunt's like manacles are off, but she doesn't say anything. She's just like, hey, there's nothing we can do for the city with the gates open to hell, so our orders are we have to remain here. And everyone's like, no, we need to like go help. And she's like, no, we have to remain here, the Steri are sending help. So they're like, okay, well, at least, you know, they've sent help. Declan's doing the countdown until the doors lock on all of the shelters. He's like, there's 3 minutes left. So they're still watching all these feeds, tracing Bryce and everybody. And then there's 2 minutes, and then there's 30 seconds, and it's still Bryce and Ethan are holding off the shelter. And so then everyone's like, go Bryce, go, run. So they start running, okay? But the doors are already starting to close, and they're too far. And so they're trying to push as hard as they can to the doors, okay? They have 15 seconds left. There's a small wolf in there, small wolf shifter, who tries to hold the doors. She like shifts and is like trying to hold them open, but it's only kind of barely delaying them. And then they can see that there's only enough space by the time they get close enough, and they're running full sprint as far as they can, fast as they can. There's only enough space for one person, and Bryce notices it first. And so she just takes half a step back just to slow down so Ethan's in front of her. And then she shoves Ethan, so then he realizes too late, and he makes it through the gap right as the doors close. And then Bryce runs right into it because she was going too fast to stop her momentum. And so then everyone is like, no! Bryce didn't make it in! And then Hunt can see on her face that this is like the first time Bryce has no idea what she's gonna do. No idea. She's sitting there on the ground like, she didn't make it in time, but she saved Ethan. So she's like taking cover kind of in the alcove of these shelters, but like not much she can do. And then she's like, okay, well, gotta make a plan. So she's got Danica's sword still in her hands. She is fighting demons as they come and are attacking her. And then she's like, okay, I just gotta make it to the old square. So she's going to the old square, and the sun is starting to set. It's getting darker, so it's starting to get quieter. And Hunt knows that that's quiet is not good. It's because the demons have finished off most everybody who didn't make it to shelter, and it's almost time that the demons who thrive in the darkness and not the light are almost getting ready to come out, because it's still light enough that they're not there yet, but the time is not on their side. Bryce makes it over the border to the old square. She's running straight towards the heart gate, okay? The flow of demons is halted, but again, it's still freaking wide open. Everyone's just watching. They can see that, like, she's about ready to give up, okay? And they're like, keep urging her through the screen. They're like, get up, Bryce. Do it, Bryce, whatever. She reaches into her shirt where she had tucked her phone, and she pulls it out, and she calls a number. And then a phone starts ringing inside the summit conference room, and they all look around, and Sandriel, confused, pulls out a phone from her pocket. It's Hunt's phone. It's ringing. It's Bryce. So then they're like, everyone's like, give him the phone. And then Rune's like, give him the phone. Sandriel's just kind of like looking like shocked, and then he's like, give him the phone. And surprisingly, she does. She gives Hunt the phone. So then he answers it, and it's like on the video feed so everyone can hear. And so then she's like, I thought this was gonna go to voicemail, like I didn't know you're actually gonna answer. And he's like, help's coming soon. And she's like, it's it's gonna be too late. This is her goodbye phone call, basically. And he's like, hey, get to a safer location. Don't go towards the gate. And she's like, it's still wide open. He's like, just go to your apartment, which is 20 blocks away. Stay there till help comes, okay? And she's like, I need you to call my mom. And he's like, no, don't start saying those goodbyes. And she's like, I need you to call my mom, and you're gonna tell her that I love her, and that everything I am is because of her, and all this stuff. And then she's like, tell my dad. And then everyone sees the Autumn King like do this, and then she clarifies, she's like, tell Randall that I'm proud that I got to call my father, and he's the only one that ever mattered. And then like the Autumn King, low-key, a little bit of shame across his face. And then Hunt's like, I need you to move to safer ground now. Like, you're gonna be okay. Help's coming. She just continues on with her phone call there. She's like, tell Fury I'm sorry that I lied. I would have told her the truth eventually. And then Fury's sitting there, tears streaming down her face. She's like, tell Juniper thank you for that night on the roof. And she's like sobbing now through her phone call. She's like, tell her I know why she stopped me from jumping. It was so I could get here to help today. Hunt's heart cracks. You can see Rune's face also devastation. Neither one of them ever knew that Bryce had ever reached that low ever in her life. Even before Hunt knew her, he's just like, they're devastated, okay? She continues on. She's like, tell Rune that I forgive him. I forgave him a long time ago. I just didn't know how to tell him. And I'm sorry I hid the truth, and I only did it because I love him, and I didn't want to take anything away from him. He'll always be the better one of us. Rune's face goes from agony to confusion, because he's like, wait, what? And confused by that. And then she's like, Hunt, I was waiting for you. And then he's like, just go back to your apartment, give me an hour. And she's like, no, like I was waiting for you in here. And he's like, I was waiting for you too. And then he continues to beg her. He's like, please. He's sobbing, she's sobbing. And then she's like, look, I forgive you for all the stuff with the synth, all of it, none of it matters, not anymore. And then she hangs up, leans Danica's sword against the wall of the shelter alcove, and then she puts her phone on the ground next to it, and then she runs straight for the gate. Everybody is like, no, Bryce, no! Everybody's screaming at her, and then all of a sudden, there's like a faint white radiance that starts glowing around her. Everyone's like, what is that? This light starts coming from her chest, and then like bits of debris around her start kind of floating, and her hair starts floating, like gravity just ceases to exist around her is what it looks like. And then this light just becomes so bright that like the rest of the world around her is just turning like gray and black, because she's like such a bright light. She's literally turning into like a star, is like how bright this light is, okay? And Rune falls to his knees at this point, and Bryce is like, I am Bryce Quinlan, heir to the Starborn Fae. Turns out she's had this Starborn power the whole freaking time, okay? And then she flares bright as the sun right into the gate, okay? Then we get the full flashback of what happened with Bryce and Danica when they had gone on that trip as seniors to the desert or whatever, and they had gone because it was part of Danica's thesis. She had found some undercover smuggling ring of smuggling like lower animals and people or creatures or whatever, and they tried to stop it, and then they wrecked their motorcycle, and Bryce has a broken arm, and Danica shielded both of them from the wreckage of the motorcycle and everything. And then these guys are finding their ammo and they're about to shoot, and then Bryce was like, Danica, close your eyes. And that's when she's like, Bryce, I love you. When she told Danica to close her eyes, that was the one and only time she's ever brought her power out in front of somebody else outside of her mom and Randall. She blinds the dudes, and then the three like shifter guys who are trying to shoot them, and then she kills them with their own gun. And then Danica looks at her at the end, and like Bryce turns to her and is like waiting for the fear and terror that her mother warned about when people found out about her power, but instead like it's just wonder on Danica's face and like love, and she's like, holy crap. So Danica's the only other person who knows about the Starborn power, but now broadcasted to everybody at the summit. They see that she's been hiding this the whole time, so she's kept this power like a secret because she didn't want to take that away from Rune, because it was like the one thing that the Autumn King like placed pride in Rune for was the Starborn powers, even if it was just a little bit, and she didn't want to take that from him. And then lots of things are like making sense now to Hunt and to Rune, and like her blatant disinterest in learning about Prince Peleus and learning about Queen Thea, who were the first Starborn, and then like she had to like physically pull back from the Star Sword when Rune had laid it on the table in the library. It just sang to her and she was like, holy crap, like that's his sword but it's also my sword, like it just sings to me. And she was like, nope, can't touch it. And so then she's using her Starlight power now that the horn is like fully repaired in her, and she's got the Starborn power, so she can literally use the horn with her Starborn power. She uses the quartz of the gate as a conduit, like a prism, to then take light and power and refract it. And so she pushes her powers into the gate and just is like close. And she closes the gate with her starlight power.